You stuck a little bit in a certain pattern and you're like, this isn't doing me any good. This is not feeling good. I don't enjoy this. It's just not empowering for me. Well, today I really want to talk about labels and the role of identity and working through that in order to get through some of these stuck patterns. And if you stay until the end, I have an extra point for you then as well. As always, if you want to connect me more on social media, you can find my links in the show notes below. This idea of identity came up twice yesterday for me. I heard it when I was listening to something. I'm always listening to my growth pretty much every day. Love it. And then I saw a friend's social media post and she's doing really, really well. And I was like, right, I've got to talk about this. Definitely, that's a sign, right? And it was about the power of identity. And I started thinking about labels, which is very similar, sort of a bit of an overlap. Like we label ourselves as certain things, and that is an identity in a way. And I was thinking back to now, I want to be very sensitive here, but I also want to be very aware and give the truth as my truth, my version of the truth, as always. Back in early 2023, I was having real challenges focusing on a new job. And there have been times in my life where I'd really struggled to focus in the workplace. And then I was talking to a friend who had been diagnosed with ADHD, right? And he started going, maybe you've got ADHD. And then I had someone, I think I was talking to someone else, and then they were like, maybe you got it, right? And then what I started having in my idea, and I am very sensitive that it is a real thing and people do genuinely have it. I've also seen that it's on the rise and people are kind of giving themselves it by saying that they've got it, right? Just being honest, what I see. Like someone told me he self-diagnosed. I'm not sure you can self-diagnose, in my personal opinion, right? Now, I started thinking I had ADHD. Now, ADHD is attention hyperactivity deficit. That's good. I can't even say what it stands for. But anyway, it's like basically an attention disorder, right? And I started thinking it was something I had, right? And I was like, therefore, I distracted myself even more. I was like, no, I can't concentrate. Oh, it's really hard. All these kind of things because I thought I had it. When I realized I didn't and got diagnosed that I didn't have it, sorry, not diagnosed, I didn't have it, but told when I got an assessment that I didn't have it, like I just start focusing again. I found actually when I was able to find methods for concentrating, I was able to. When I was labeling myself as I can't concentrate, I've got, this ADHD, and there's different forms of ADHD. There's all sorts of symptoms, right? Do talk to an expert if you're concerned, of course. This is just an example of my own life and my own experience from it. In that I didn't have it, but when I thought I did, I started behaving that way. But I'll give another example. I've given myself the label of lazy when I just couldn't get work done, and therefore I do less work. And no one else actually called me lazy. I was just calling it myself, but I do less and less work. I've also empowered myself and called myself athletic and in shape. I've also called myself overweight and like I didn't feel good and therefore I didn't eat very well. But when I've called myself athletic, I was running half marathons. I got in a real chisel shape. I was really, really energetic. And that's the power of labels and identity when they can really stick, right? Now, it's not as simple, unfortunately, as me just going, I'm a millionaire. And then suddenly I open my bank account and then I've got like £1 million there, right? Or $1 million, whatever country, or euros, or whichever country you're from. Right. So one line I learned from Tony Robbins is the strongest force in the human personality is the need to be consistent with how we define ourselves. In that, if we give ourselves an identity, we want to remain with it. We give ourselves a label, we want to remain with it. And we can give ourselves labels for all sorts of reasons. We might have heard it. Someone might have called us it one too many times that we start to believe it. Something may have happened when we were younger. But when I've become aware of it, it's really helped me. Like the fact is, I label myself as a real top podcaster and I've done really well with podcasting. I've labelled myself as a decent footballer and I play really good football, well, for my level, right? But I don't label myself as a professional footballer because that's not what I am, right? And I've also labelled myself as having challenges in other areas, like some of the ones I've mentioned, right? The thing is, when you keep acting a certain way, it's usually out of identity, out of who you believe you are. So I want to go through some tips on this. How is it helping you being stuck in a certain label though? If you're anything like me, it didn't do me any favors. So the first one is become aware of what you're calling yourself now and catch yourself. It can be silly little voices in your head. I'm this, I'm that, right? So become aware of what you're calling yourself now, right? The second one, write down what you want, where you want to be, and who you need to be as a result. Because when you can become aware of who you need to be, you can start living that identity. And the third one is writing an identity statement. And this is in the form of I am, and then write all the empowering words you want to believe. Don't make it too long. Wouldn't say past like 3, maximum 4 lines. But reading this again and again with emotion, with music, with intensity. I do this 3 times a day. 10 times I'll read it, and then 3 times a day. Really embed my identity. And I'll say things like I'm courageous. And I naturally catch myself doing things that are very scary. And I'm like, wow, that's courageous. Oh yeah, I've identified with it. The thing is, if we're negatively identifying certain words, if we're not aware of them, we start acting in those ways as well. Like, oh yeah, I'm not a very good public speaker. So many people say that. Do you know what they do? They hold back even more. People who say they're amazing public speakers, do you know what they do? They jump out on stage and start talking. So maybe public speaking is not your thing. That's just an example, but where do you want to go? And therefore, what identity do you need to take on is the question. Now, I've got a final point for you as well. I want to mention again that if you want to connect me more on social media, you can find my links in the show notes below. One thing I would suggest is if you've got someone great or people great in your life who are really kind to you, ask them to describe you. Ask them to describe you in a positive way, because obviously not a negative way, right? Don't ask people who like put you down or anything. But ask them, like, what do you think can be? Like, what are my good traits? Because if they're thinking it, the chances are that you are, right? These positive things, right? And they're just seeing what's in you. Now, the negative things, it's not necessarily, it's always someone's opinion. But like if someone's seeing some good in you and you like it, then make yourself believe it. So that's what I got for you today. I appreciate you for being here. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.